One moment. Can you hear me right now? You should be able to hear me right now. Hello. I'm going to fix this in 1 second. Still no audio? Yeah, no, I see. 1 second. I'm gonna... You can hear me now? Cool. I made the mistake of forgetting to add audio to the solo scene of just me. So you know what? We're gonna stay here in the first news story, and I'm not gonna bore you guys with me solving my own technical difficulties because I built this stream setup this morning because I'm hosting by myself today, and we had this fun little issue where I was leaving for Italy for 2 weeks, and then Zorn was leaving for also the Mediterranean, at least starting the Mediterranean for 3 weeks. So there's a long stretch of time where like Zorn and I are not available to communicate with each other very well. So I was not able to get the stream set up from him because he's usually the one that runs this himself. But I'm glad that this is working. Hi guys, how are you? I'm also not used to talking to myself in streams, or talking to just you guys in streams. If you've seen the stuff that I've done for the channel, I primarily talk to Zorn in Damage Report. And I talk to... That is not my full name, Amazing Spider Dan, because that's not... Because Ben is short for something, and what Ben is short for, you'll never know. The rest of that, though, is correct. Yeah, that's my middle name. The hello was a weird, like, suffix? Prefix? I forget. Anyway, yeah. Hi, guys. How you doing? I'm going to give people a little bit of time to funnel in before we dive into news properly. But I hope you're having a good day. It's not Benford. I guarantee you cannot properly guess what my full name is. If someone gets it, I'm impressed. It's Benson Boone. Fuck. How'd you know? I've been holding back the flips for so long to keep that under wraps. Anyway, it is Benyal. I do like Benyal. That's a fun. Would I host a kill count? I don't know. It's hard for me to answer that because making a kill count is so much work on the host's part. Because like you need to put things into your own voice, and I'm very busy. Like when Zorn took over and hosted a kill count, he was able to kind of dedicate all of his time to being a movie kill count host. That was like his primary work at the company. And I have too many things that are very difficult to hand off for a prolonged period of time. So like, I think it's unrealistic for that to ever be something I'd be able to do. Would I want to? Maybe. It'd be cool. I think I'd love to do Attack the Block. That would be my first choice. Or like, maybe Coraline, but now that is tainted by Neil Gaiman, so I think Attack the Block would probably be my first choice for a kill count movie that I hosted. But I appreciate the let Ben host train. I feel like this is a much easier thing for me to fit into my schedule. Even like doing game streams for prolonged periods of time, like a 3-hour, 4-hour game stream. I always want to do one with Zorn, and then the time comes and I'm like, no, I can't fit this in. Have I considered hiring the minions from Minions to help with those kinds of tasks and responsibilities? The issue is that LA has a lot of association with the Minions. Like we're all kind of vying for them. It's a strong market. They just have high rates. Oh, I don't have a coffee cup for today. My mug of the day, I guess, is this. It's my Awala water bottle. One of my Awala water bottles. I have too many. What about Night of the Zoopocalypse kill count? I would I would... Don't speak for me, Michael. You don't know how evil I am. I've not seen Night of the Zoopocalypse, but I do want to. I love animation. I do think doing an animated movie kill count would be quite cool. An anime kill count, maybe. But, like, fair use doesn't really exist, from my understanding, in a lot of Asian countries. So the reason that I don't have a mug of the day, like genuinely the reason I don't have a mug of the day today, is because I went and got a cappuccino because I just got back from Italy, and A, I'm out of coffee beans, and B, I'm cappuccino pilled now. You're right. I'm sorry, Michael. Our mantra is be good people. Okay, it's 6 minutes into the stream. Let's dive into some news. If you've seen the title for this video and the thumbnail for this video, there's going to be a lot of industry talk because a lot of things are happening. Not nitty gritty behind the scenes industry stuff where it's like this kind of affects people who play video games, but it fundamentally is like unimportant, like not fundamentally unimportant to you, but like something that you can write off as unimportant, even if I do think it matters. No, this is like very much, there's a lot of stuff going on that is directly going to impact the games we're able to play and how we're able to interact with them. But we'll get to that. Let's start with some lighter news. Hideo Kojima teases that a revolutionary new gameplay system for horror in OD. This, pretty minor news overall. Like, if there's one thing Hideo Kojima's going to do, it's going to tell us that his new game is revolutionizing how you interact with games. But I think it's interesting to hear that he thinks that this game is in a good place. We've heard so little about OD since the initial announcement. If you look at the little preview they have here, and they say it in this article as well, it's giving very much PT, which excites me personally. For those who don't know the history of PT was a demo produced by Hideo Kojima when he was supposed to be making a Silent Hill game. So it was kind of like a tease of what that Silent Hill was going to be. And then Kojima got fired from Konami. He got fired from the studio that he'd been working at forever, where he made Metal Gear Solid. And he went off and made his own game, his own studio, and his own games with the Death Stranding series. So this does, in a lot of ways, seem like he's dipping his foot back into, maybe a lot of the ideas that he initially had for that Silent Hill game, and also probably, hopefully, a lot of new ideas. And it has, like, great people working on it. Like, Hunter Schafer's in this, and Sophia Lillis is in this, and I enjoy both of them very much. Yeah. This was a pretty light news article. The successor to Xbox, Asha Sharma, because OD is an Xbox Studios game. I debated not talking about it because, as I've mentioned in What We Play in the Shadows, if you have not watched What We Play in the Shadows, check out the podcast. Xbox is on the BDS list, which is a list of priority boycotts to support Palestine. I don't buy Xbox games at all at this point, but there are ways, like, you can get games secondhand, or maybe you can get games secondhand, because that's a future story we're getting to. Speaking of Xbox, let's talk about one of the big news stories, the dumpster fire that is the mass restructuring of Xbox. So, for those of you who don't know, Xbox, as I mentioned a second ago, Xbox switched from... Wow, it's really weird talking to myself. Xbox switched from the... Apparently you're trying to catch recordings of an actual ghost. That's sick as hell. You know what? Hell yeah, Kojima. What a weird guy. I love him. Xbox switched from... It switched CEOs from its past CEO, Phil Spencer, who was running things there for a long time, who was very much the spearhead of the Xbox is everything campaign, which is not the slogan, I think. But that's basically the concept is like you can play Xbox on your TV through streaming and your phone and this and that. Everywhere is Xbox. And its new CEO, Asha Sharma, is doing a lot of restructuring of the brand, is emphasizing Xbox as a console a lot more, which in certain ways is very interesting. But we also are seeing mass layoffs and shutting downs of companies and game developers. And to a degree, there is a part of me that is sympathetic to Asha Sharma because she is being given a hand that she did not craft. So, there is a lot of blame that I think also needs to be lobbied at previous leadership and also like heads of Microsoft who are still in charge of Microsoft overall, who had the ability to like make calls here and probably were involved in calls being made in the past. But it seems like, looking at these articles, Asha Sharma's coming in. She's going, we are not making enough profit, which is its own problem again, because the Xbox pushed itself so heavily into Xbox Game Pass, which any subscription model is kind of, in my opinion, economically unsound in our current capitalist system where unending profit, exponential unending profit is all that matters, because there's a cap to what subscription price, the only way to make more money off of subscriptions is to continuously increase the price of it year over year or get more subscribers. And there's a limit to what either of those can be. And that's kind of what put us in our current hellscape of in movies and TV as well, television being, Netflix cracking down on password sharing and then continuously increasing their price and increasing their price and increasing their price. And yeah, also a point that OwnSwan is making, it devalues the games. Like personally, I used to have Xbox Game Pass and I feel like, and I think this is something that you can say for movies and television and like music as well. I've started listening to music on an old iPod that I had in my drawer and like buying CDs, and it makes it feel a lot more, it makes each piece of music that I'm listening to, each album that I'm listening to, feel a lot more intentional and personal to me, as opposed to just like a thing to be consumed. And I think that streaming, both as a movie thing and a TV thing and a music thing and a game thing, kind of devalues that and makes us more and more into consumers rather than people like engaging with things that matter to us. That's my rant about streaming. Point is, as a result of a lot of the choices that Xbox has made about buying a lot of studios, focusing on Game Pass, focusing on streaming everywhere, we now are in a state where new CEOs come in, clearing house, and shutting down a lot of companies. 5 studios specifically recently, although if we go further back in the past 6 months of Xbox history, there has been other shutdowns and other layoffs. I feel like it feels like the layoffs in the games industry feels so much like the idea of one is a tragedy, 1,000 is a statistic, where like it just keeps coming to the point that you're numb about it. But that is not a healthy way to feel about it. And even looking at this, there is some news in here that's good. Some of these studios are not being shut down properly. They're just being switched to being independent again. Companies like Double Fine, which I'm very excited about, going back to being independent. They were independent previously. They worked on Psychonauts and Keeper and a bunch of other games that I don't remember the names of off the top of my head, because they make a ton of games. They produce a ton of games. Compulsion Games, who made South of Midnight, are becoming independent again. And then other studios like we're looking at here, Ninja Theory, who made the Hellblade series, is being shopped around to be purchased again, which if you saw the news out of Summer Game Fest that Senwa is being made, it seems like that is like announcing that was kind of their push to get the yeah, I mean to what you're saying, Sionis. It's it's the era of shareholders. You're not making money for the sake of your employees, which I feel is like what it should. It's very silly to me that we talk about money and like profit as what matters. Because if you break even, that means everyone's gotten paid. The people who've done the work have gotten paid. That's what breaking even is. There shouldn't be anything wrong with breaking even on a project. That should be like, yes, profit has value. Profit can give you room to try new things, can give you a safety net, can be profit shared amongst your employees to give them more money. All those things are great. Don't get me wrong. Not arguing that like you shouldn't want to make money. But this narrative we have that if something doesn't make a quote unquote profit, it is worthless is silly. And again, to be fair to Xbox and to its new CEO, Asha Sharma, she's beholden to the requirements of her job. She's not like the head of Xbox able to do whatever the hell, or the head of Microsoft able to do whatever the hell she wants. She has to do what is asked of her. And you know, like, especially in an entertainment industry, in a media industry, where's James? James has never been here. James is over on the bench, and the bench is the Dead Meat channel. Go hang out with him over there. But that's true. This is Dead Meat Games. Hello. We should get James on a stream over here at some point. Yeah, gone are the days of Nintendo CEO taking a pay cut to save other workers' jobs, which is like, and that's, hi Dot Needed, I'm Ben. I am one of our producers at Dead Meat, and I'm a brand manager. And normally I'm here with Zorn, but Zorn is on vacation. So right now you just get me. Am I cousin Ben? I'll take that. Yeah. This is all a very long-winded way to say, like, I personally understand the need to make these changes from her perspective, but it is very tragic, and it is also, again, it is the problem with corporations and businesses where people in charge get to make mistakes, and then people below them suffer the consequences of it. And that's what's, you know, potentially happening here. And again, it's good that so many of these don't seem to be full-on shutdowns. I am really hopeful that Ninja Theory and Undead Labs, who make State of Decay, are going to get bought. But that so often isn't the case. We're going to talk about another studio that is potentially getting closed again from this restructuring, where, and you know, 3,000 layoffs are still happening regardless of what's happening with these studios, because for real, there was James coming back. James is back. Back from what? What are we talking about here? Because James is over on the Dead Meat channel all the time. James is on the podcast coming out, what day is it? Tuesday? Tomorrow? He's on the Kill Count on Friday. And he was on a news stream yesterday. Is this aggressive? I don't mean for this to be aggressive. Does this count? Is this coming across as aggressive? I'm just trying to be communicative about information. Anyway, this is my very long-winded speech about the state of things. And to that point, which Kadak Neon Boom just brought up, there's also discussion of Arcane Studios being shut down. Arcane being the studio behind Deathloop, the Dishonored series. We've already lost Arcane Austin, which was their spin-off, but Arcane Lyon in France is the main Arcane studio, the ones who made Dishonored proper, who was also bought by Xbox. And it seems like Arcane is in a unique situation because they're a French studio, and French laws require a consultation when layoffs are in discussion, which is a great system. Shout out to the French. But it is disappointing to see, even if, even if it's like, yeah, Xbox probably did bite off more than it can chew, and having more independent studios I don't think is inherently a bad thing. It is disappointing to see corporations with ungodly amounts of money get to play fast and loose with other people's livelihoods and businesses that they are so passionate about and that they've worked for. So, and in this case, the big sacrifice of this might be Marvel's Blade video game, which Arcane Leon has been working on, teased a while ago. We haven't really seen anything about the Blade game, but I figured that's worth discussing since vampire, that's like horror adjacent. Yeah. And then, on top of all of this, the thing that affects you directly is the ongoing rise of console prices. I feel like every 5 goddamn seconds, a new article comes out that's being like, this console's getting more expensive. This console's getting more expensive. I sold my Xbox Series X when the BDS list initially started being like started saying like don't use Xbox. Part of not to be like I'm so progressive. That was for a lot of reasons, including just like I wasn't really using it for much. I already canceled Game Pass. I thought it'd be nicer to have 2 PlayStations in my house where I could play. I could access the same saves across instead of having to decide which console. Not the point. I sold my Xbox, and it's crazy to me how much more money I could have gotten if I kept waiting for just the cost of a new Xbox to ongoing increase. Do I have a favorite kill count? I think American Psycho 2. I love the American Psycho 2 kill count. Shout out to Chelsea's. Chelsea's so funny. Chelsea's comedy is so up my alley specifically. God, she's great. I love her. I also quite enjoyed her, just on the Chelsea note, I quite enjoyed her Psycho 1998 kill count as well. Very good. Anyway. Yeah, so consoles are getting more and more expensive. It's very strange. I remember when I was, God, how old was I? 10? 11? When did PS3 come out? 2006? So I would have been 2007, 2006, around that. So I would have been 11 or 12. Yeah. When I was 11 or 12, I raised the money to buy the $600 PS3, which was crazy. That was an absurd price for a console. And 4 years after that initial launch window, the cost of a PS3 was we had I think at that point 2 generations of the PS3 Slim. We were already nearing the PS4 launch, and a PS3 cost $300. You had why can't I think of his name right now? What were those? Kevin Butler. You had those PlayStation commercials with their fake vice president Kevin Butler walking around being like, PlayStation 3 is now $299. It'd be crazy for the PlayStation 3 to be $299. And now we're in a point where, and to be clear, for people who don't understand why this is happening, this is not seemingly inherently the console manufacturer's fault. This is AI's fault. This is that every component is getting more expensive because AI is demanding RAM, AI is demanding CPU, AI is demanding GPUs, and so those are becoming more and more scarce, and the cost of them is increasing exponentially. It is one of... AI sucks. AI sucks for so many reasons. And if anyone is watching this and is a fan of AI, I just ask you, ignoring the ethics of it, ignoring the effect it has on your mind based on studies to be using it, ignoring all of that, is it really worth making our stuff so much more expensive for the sake of a thing that can answer questions badly? Google existed already. I could get answers to things already. Yeah. So AI is making everything more and more expensive. The crazy thing here is the Xbox Series S was $300 when it came out in 2020. The Xbox Series S was a $300 console, and the Xbox Series X was a $500 console. And now the Xbox Series S costs $500, and the Xbox Series X costs $750. And so it's not just, oh, it's gone up in price. Sorry, let me rephrase that. It's not just, oh, unlike the past generations, it hasn't gone down in price. It has gone exponentially up in price. That's unheard of. That's crazy. Yeah. Also, it harms the environment. Yes, yeah, no, to be clear, AI bad for many, 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 many reasons. I'm simply arguing against the thing that is like the most self-interested reason you could be anti-AI. I mean, you could also make the argument that the environment is the most self-interested reason you could be anti-AI, and I'd argue it is the most self-interested reason to be anti-AI. Well, also just like economic collapse. This is a really depressing episode. Sorry, guys. But yeah, no. This is crazy. And it's happening across the board. It's happening in... Yeah, no, MacGyver Yuri. I have a friend who went to give a speech at our film school. Like he graduated around when I graduated, I think a year after me, and he came back and was like giving a speech and made a joke about AI, assuming that all of the film students there would be anti-AI, and apparently, according to him, got like silence. Yeah, no, it's very bad. And this is just... Zorn's gone. I'm off the leash. This is just Ben ranting about the state of the world. It's in everything now, too. Like, I opened the YouTube backend, and it's like, do you want to use AI to figure out a title for this? And I'm like, no. Leave me alone. Anyway. And it's so hard to catch it now, too. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes it isn't. But, like, if you've followed Dead Meat stuff, there's been times where we've missed I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if it was or was not AI. But we've had things where, like, we pulled a stock image that said it wasn't AI, and we've gotten comments being like, this is AI. And we look at it and we're like, maybe. I'm not sure. And it's so frustrating. Anyway, moving on. Valve, speaking of consoles that are really expensive, Valve, as you may know, just released the Steam Machine. I have not gotten a chance to look at one myself. I probably won't get a chance to look at one anytime soon. I'm certainly not going to be spending the money on that because it is extremely expensive. However, it's extremely expensive, and it is, like, not underpowered, but it is less powerful, seemingly, than a console that I could get for less. So, what you can do, however, if you already have a gaming computer, but would like it to be a little bit more seamless, a little bit more of a console experience, maybe on your TV, you can add SteamOS to your gaming PC. And if you really want to, you can build it into like a small little box. I think I might do that. I have a gaming PC that used to be my work PC, but then I switched over to just like a Mac Mini for work. So that gaming PC can now be condensed into a little box, maybe have SteamOS slapped on it, and then play it from my TV, because I grew up a console player. I don't like playing video games at my desk. I find it deeply annoying. Yeah. So that's news. What else? This is potentially cool. there's a fan-made co-op mod for Alien Isolation coming, where you can play the original Alien Isolation game in co-op. There's not seemingly a ton of details about how that will work. It's whenever any mod is being developed, any fan project is being developed, it's always hard to know how functional that will be, because this is a passion project for people. They're doing it presumably in their free time. But I grew up playing video games on a TV with my friends primarily. Gaming for me has always been a very communal experience. So I am very interested to see if a functional, good Alien Isolation game can be playable. What are you guys saying in chat? Plus no disk drive for the Steam machine. Yeah, that is the hard thing too. Is like, I mean, we're gonna get to this talking about PlayStation, but like, if I'm putting it in my living room or in, anywhere I have a TV, if that's how I'm using this, I would definitely prefer is there already an Alien co-op game? I believe Alien Colonial Marines is co-op, but that is also much more of a like action game. Alien Isolation is kind of the quintessential alien horror experience. So so it's like they're both the Alien IP, but they're very, very different games. Seamaster Heart loves me. I love you, buddy. To the degree that I can love a name on a screen that I've not met. We're not allowing parasocialism here. But I do appreciate it. Anyway. What else? Horror mystery visual novel Scarlet Hollow receives expansion of first 5 chapters. I have not played Scarlet Hollow, but for those who don't know, Scarlet Hollow is from the developers of Slay the Princess, which Zoran really likes, which Addison, for those who know Addison from the streams she's been on, from the podcast episode she was just on, talking about horror dating sims, going through like the whole history of it, check that out if you haven't, is a big Slay the Princess fan, and also a big Scarlet Hollow fan. She has recommended this game like multiple times. I know there's still chapters to come, so it's not a complete story yet, but they are expanding the chapters that are currently out there, and that's really neat. I am very excited to dive into this at some point. I have only heard good things. Yeah. There's definitely, I believe, not definitely, I believe there is already a co-op game. I just don't think there's a co-op horror game. What else? Anything in chat that I need to see? No. Remastered editions of Remothered Tormented Fathers and Remothered Broken Porcelain have been announced. So if you're a fan of Remothered or have been interested in Remothered, you can get these remastered editions when they release. I don't see a release date here, but it is coming to Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series. Xbox Series is such a silly... Oh yeah, Don't Starve is horror co-op. There is horror co-op, to be clear. That exists. What horror franchise would I want to see a new game of? Oh, God. I mean, I feel like, in a lot of ways, I feel like horror games, a lot of the big horror franchises are getting their sequels. Like, we're getting Silent Hill, Townfall. We just had Silent Hill F. We're getting, like, the Halloween, like, even outside of game franchises, we're getting the Halloween game. We're getting the Hellraiser game. We're getting the Saw game. I don't know what franchise. I think to me, I am more interested in new horror games being developed than like specific franchises being continued. Not that I'm not excited for like franchise games, I just don't have one off the top of my head where I'm like, that's the one that I want. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would like. I love Alien. Alien's one of my favorite horror franchises. But I'm like, yeah, we're getting Alien Isolation too. We get Alien games. And speaking of, no, that's not a transition. That makes sense. Transitioning. Directive 8020, developer Supermassive Games CEO steps down again. A lot of shaking up in the games industry right now. The state of Supermassive is interesting. I feel like, you know, Directive A20 received mixed reviews. Little Nightmares 3 received mixed reviews. Oh, a Predator game would be fun. I could fuck with, like, if a studio had a good idea for a Predator game, I could fuck with a Predator game. Yeah, and the Dark Pictures franchise has been up and down. I feel like Supermassive really had its two big moments with Until Dawn and The Quarry. I'm hopeful that they are able to reshift. And, you know, it's also hard to know, is this a stepping down because of the state of Supermassive, or is this a stepping down because running a company is exhausting and he's ready to... Yes, Robert. I assume because he's ready to just retire. Unclear. But hopefully this does not mean horrible things for Supermassive. Like it says in this article, they've already laid off 30% of their staff, but that was back in 2024. So that doesn't necessarily mean that this is signs of worse things to come. And so many... It's hard. It's hard to be in the games industry. And then Ontos, the next horror game from the developers of Soma and Amnesia, has been delayed to 2027. This is just like a quick... I don't really need all this article. Okay. Hi, guys. Let's talk about the other bad news. PlayStation is ceasing production of physical discs for new games in January of 2028. So we have about 1 year left, a year and a half of... And to be clear, seemingly, like looking through this article, which also highly recommend if you are a video game fan, a games industry fan, if you like news like this, really appreciate you following us here and getting your news here, but also support the sites that are reporting these. I love Game Informer personally. It's partly because I have friends who work there, and they're independent now. For those who don't know, they no longer are part of GameStop. Anyway, this sucks ass for a variety of reasons. And I want to be clear here that, like, I am not someone who buys all my games physically. Most of my games probably are bought digitally, whether that is my Steam games, whether that is my PlayStation 5 games, whether that is my Nintendo Switch games. Although I do buy more Switch games physically because I like the little cartridges. Those are fun. Not the point. This is fundamentally destructive to the ability... This is fundamentally destructive to the ability to preserve games. And admittedly, that was already hard because so many games require downloads once you put the disc in. So there was kind of already that weird middle ground of like, yeah, you own the disc, but you don't necessarily have fundamental access to the game just by the nature of having the disc. Good God, do I miss the PS2 and just being able to put a disc in and it's like that everything is there. But it's also an issue of, like you can't share games easily with friends. I don't know if, for those who have been following this industry for a long time, I remember when Xbox One was revealed and they were like, and with this system, you aren't able to share your video game copies with friends. Like, it is locked to your account, basically. And people revolted. And PlayStation released a whole little jokey video being like, this is how you share a game on PlayStation. And then it's like handing a disc, and that's the entire video. And we've come so far from that time, that moment, even though that was like 10 years ago, a little more, I guess, like 12, 15 years ago, that range. And now, yeah, PlayStation made that video to mock Xbox. And now we're at this place where it is like, there isn't a way to share your media with people. There isn't a way to rent your media. You know, you used to be able to go into stores and or go to even like a Redbox booth and like rent a game and play it for a week and see how you felt about it. And ownership, in my opinion, matters a lot. Being able to preserve media matters a lot. And and it mentions it in this article, Sony just did a thing where they removed like 500 movies that people had bought through their platform, and they just can't access those movies anymore because buying a movie digitally is fundamentally or buying a video game digitally is fundamentally a licensing of that, which can be terminated rather than your own actual ownership of the game. To be fair, those people who are in the video don't work anymore at PlayStation. That's true. Like, you're right. Those employees are gone. But it was still a thing that like PlayStation as an entity released. And you know, you could be right. Maybe those people were like big pushers of discs and games. But it's also like, if you look further back, and maybe this is to a degree like old man yells at clouds, but the PlayStation 2, one of the big reasons the PlayStation 2 was successful was that it worked as a DVD player. You know, not that it wouldn't have been successful otherwise, but it was one of the best-selling game consoles of all time because people bought it because it was as affordable as buying a DVD player back then. And now, like for myself, I own a lot of media. I own a lot of physical media, not just video game wise, but like movie wise. Like I got a 4K. You can't see this. I got a 4K of Speed Racer in the mail like 2 weeks ago, and now with presumably what I assume this means, if they're no longer making discs, and maybe I'm wrong, then presumably they're not going to be having disc drives in their consoles anymore. And, you know, maybe they're going to do essentially what they've been doing now, where, because, you know, that also creates the issue of like, what about the games that you already own physically? Will I not be able to play any of my PS5 disc-based games on a PlayStation 6? And maybe they have a workaround for that. Maybe they are going to do essentially what they're doing with the PS5 currently, which is you buy it without a disc drive, and then you can buy a disc drive and attach it. And I'm not inherently opposed to that if that makes sense economically and like reduce the cost of it for other people who don't need that. But it is a shitty move that I think also like makes games less accessible to lower income people, because we've seen that with dynamic pricing in video game stores where, you know, they're judging how much to charge based off of like details about you that they have. And the stuff like I have games that I've bought physically almost entirely because like I can buy a used copy of it for less than I can get it digitally. Or like, you know, there's games that I've been eyeing that I have seen go on sale digitally, but I'm like, oh, I can buy that used. And like as a kid, I made so much money, not made so much money, I guess, but like a thing I did a lot as a kid when I wanted a new video game was I would sell my old video games on eBay or on Craigslist or to GameStop. And that was the way I was able to like keep myself having access to new games. And by removing all of this, by removing that whole area, you are limiting access to lower income people. So yeah, it sucks. It really blows. I think it is a deeply like, look, I understand that video game consoles have historically been money losers. Like, if you know the history of the structure of companies like Sony and Microsoft or Xbox, generally the idea is they sell the console at a loss and then they make their money back from game sales. So I understand if they're looking at the current state of the industry and they're going, we can't afford to lose money on physical discs if that is a, potential money loser. But I don't think that's, I also think you need to have goodwill for your players and for the people who engage with your product. And yeah, removing the ability to own something is just shitty and just sucks. And again, I'm someone who buys a lot of games digitally. I'm not going to sit here and be like, but there's a difference between me choosing to buy a game digitally, knowing what that means, and me having to buy a game digitally because I could not access it any other way. And, there's also the question of, if you remove physical media sales, then the only way to access games for PlayStation fundamentally is the PlayStation Store, at which point is that a monopoly? And there's been talk of that in the space already of, does the PlayStation Store constitute a monopoly even before this? And I think that the disc sales kind of cushioned it, because you could go buy from GameStop or from eBay or from whatever site you wanted to use. You could buy used. You were not locked into this one way of accessing the game. But now you will be. And that's fundamentally monopoly on purchases through the PlayStation Store, which I have to imagine PlayStation has thought of, but also seems like a very stupid, like, even if having disc sales only served to cushion, to like be able to talk your way out of being called a monopoly, that seems worth it to me. So yeah, that is that. It all kind of blows. Yeah, what do you guys think? I feel like the chat I've seen as I've been going on my rants, thank you for bearing with me as I just talk, is, yeah, I mean, like, with PlayStation, but I think you can see the monopoly effect within PlayStation and Nintendo and Xbox versus PC too, because, like, Steam sales are so much better than PlayStation sales. And I think you see that because the PlayStation sales are, look, MacGyver Yuri, we're called Damage Report. This is the damage. Steam, no matter how powerful Steam is competing with other marketplaces. They're competing with Epic. They're competing with GOG. They're competing with Humble. And that is why you see such good deals on Steam. And you don't have that on consoles. And that's already been affecting it. And this just makes that worse. And to what you're saying as well, Sir Run DMC, S Run DMC, I'm calling you Sir Run DMC. I've been a PlayStation player since I was on PS2. It was my first console. I grew up not buying into the console wars, but enjoying the console wars more than I should have. Console wars are stupid. But I've always been a PlayStation guy, and my Directed by Ryan Johnson shirt, thank you. Yeah, this blows. I think that we are kind of in this constant churn of things being made worse for us. I was on a plane flight, a United plane flight back from Italy this past weekend. Shout out to Italy. Shout out to Bologna, Italy. If anyone ever gets the chance, to go to the Il Cinema Ritrovato Film Festival in Bologna, Italy. Highly recommend you do it. It was sick as hell. Not the point. On a plane flight back, they had an ad for like Starlink, and the ad opened on this like old news report or some kind of like old video of a guy being like, we don't know what the future will hold, but there's one thing we know for sure. It'll be excellent. And no. So yeah, this is the state of PlayStation. Last other bits of news: Silent Hill Townfall is confirmed to have multiple endings, which is not super surprising. It's most Silent Hills do, but like Silent Hill 2 does. Silent Hill F most recently had, I think, 5 endings, but good to have more details. Also, there's not a ton of details currently out about what Silent Hill Townfall even really is, so any little morsel we can get is exciting. I still think gaming is better than before. There are caveats for modern stuff, but we also have access to the games that released way back then. Yeah, that's fair. There is... I think that there is more of a thoughtfulness about preservation now, which is good. But... I don't know. I want to be optimistic about, and I'm not saying like the games industry is like doomed, but I want to be optimistic about it being good for game developers and it being good for us as players. And there's a lot of, in many ways, I just miss the PS2 era and the PS3 era. I miss when Naughty Dog could release 3 Uncharted games in one console cycle. And that console cycle was like a 6-year span. They released an Uncharted game every 2 years. And so many people have lost jobs in the shift of what the games industry is. And, you know, the more optimistic view that I have is that maybe, hopefully, game companies are being forced to contend with not just throwing their money around willy-nilly, but so many people suffer in the wake of that, and that sucks. And like I love video games. I still love many games that come out right now, especially indies. I love so many indie games, and that's a really hard space to be in sometimes too. But you also see people who are and you know, and there's stuff that can help too. Like, again, looking at Arcane Lyon, France has laws about like how to, like, France has laws for layoffs. And it's just like, we have this idea in other countries, and in my, you know, I don't know where you guys are from. In America, where I'm from, layoffs are things that are just allowed to happen. And that just, to me, seems unfair, that people suffer from the failures of management. Anyway. Moving on. A few games coming out in the next 2 weeks before our next episode of Damage Report. We have The Mound, Omen of Cthulhu, which I am going to open for you guys right now. A little link. We have The Mound. We have The Mound. We have The Mound. Why are you not letting me show this? One moment. What if I copy this link and then paste it over here? Well, that didn't work. Interesting. Why is this not working? Sometimes I don't understand OBS. Anyway, we have The Mound, Omen of Cthulhu. I'm just going to talk about it. We have... Michael has that demo downloaded as we speak. Michael, when you do the gaming live stream on Thursday. Dead by Daylight gaming live stream on Thursday. Tell us what you think, if you've played it by then. And then we also have Cheat Death, which is a roguelite kind of like dice not poker, but like dice seemingly like gambling game where you are trying to cheat death. The idea seems to be you've died. I'm just gonna click it and read the description. What am I doing? Can you guys tell that I'm not used to being on my own? Cheat Death, the name, the core, and the goal. Play your hand wisely and you might just escape the Reaper in the roguelite horror game. Where else can you roll the dice with the Grim Reaper using your own life as the final chip? That is coming July 16th to PC. We also have Dig Dig Die coming out. It is an online co-op horror game for 1 to 6 players. Board a cursed flying ship, raid haunted graveyards for loot, and survive monsters that hear every sound. Did James make this to combine his love for horror with his love for Sea of Thieves? This just sounds like... And it's also kind of got a mascot horror vibe to it as well. I'm sorry I can't show you guys this, because I don't know why my screen... What if I did this? Does this work? This also doesn't work. Interesting. Anyway, that's that. We also have Happy Humble's Purgatory, which is, I believe, a sequel to a cooking horror game where you split your time between cooking meals for people in purgatory? I'm guessing from the name Purgatory. Grill burgers, serve customers, and hit your quota before the kitchen turns into a nightmare. When Asset Joy begins her hunt, try to escape alive and extract your hard-earned cash to survive another shift. For 1 to 4 players co-op. So it's like an extraction game meets cooking game meets horror game. Interesting. Oh! It's published by Tiny Build. Tiny Build makes interesting stuff. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So if any of these sound interesting to you guys, check it out. Yeah. Otherwise, what's going on in Dead Meat? I'm just leaving this article up to depress all of us. And also because, again, my microphone was not set up with the scene of just me. So if I switch to this, yeah. Yeah. Where is my... So, in terms of Dead Meat news, we have the Dead by Daylight live stream with, I believe, Michael, Tim, and Addison. Michael, you can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, on Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then we have Victorian Psycho over on the Dead Meat channel. We have the Victorian Psycho book podcast on Wednesday. That is... yeah, I just think, you know, I don't know. It's early. I don't have a good joke about spoiling Game of Thrones. Maybe spoiling it will help, actually. Maybe spoiling it will make the end less bad. You know what's coming. Victorian Psycho Book Pod on Wednesday on the Dead Meat channel. James and Gressel will be talking about the Victorian Psycho book that they read, which I have heard is quite a good episode. I was there running the mix. I enjoyed their conversation. Gressel has an English degree, so like him talking about books is really interesting. And then on Friday, we have the Rocky Horror podcast. Kill count. The Rocky Horror Pod. What am I talking about? The Rocky Horror Picture Show kill count. I'm jet lagged, guys. I was in Italy so recently, and I'm quite tired. And yeah, that's everything. That's everything on Dead Meat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh yeah, and shutting down the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation 3 storefronts as well, which again is speaking to the idea of like, with the PlayStation 3, if you buy a PS3, you can still buy discs for it. You just can't get things digitally. Now, if you look at, or like if I buy a PlayStation, I own a PlayStation Vita. My PlayStation Vita, which admittedly is jailbroken, and I can access whatever the fuck I want with. But if we ignore that, the Vita, I can get games for physically, even though the store is shutting down. But with a discless console, with the PlayStation 6 potentially being a discless console, or even if it isn't discless, if it does have a disc drive, but you can't get PlayStation 6 games that way, or even PS5 games for the current PS5 that way, what happens when the PlayStation 5 storefront shuts down in 15, 20 years? That just becomes a dead ecosystem. You cannot access the end of that console cycle. What's the kill count game this month? The kill count game this month is something that I'm not going to say because I feel like that's Zorn's right to announce, which he also probably did. I feel like he probably announced at the end of Outlast Whistleblower. Happy Hills Homicide 2. Yeah, it's Happy Hills Homicide 2. That's been announced. Good. I'm not spoiling anything. Unlike Game of Thrones, which if you lip read, I did spoil. Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for putting up with me kind of rambling through my first stream by myself. This is new for me. I look forward to not having to do it the next Damage Report when Zorn will be back. And we'll talk about hopefully more exciting, fun games, news, and not just me going on a state of the economy and industry rant for an hour straight. This has been Damage Report. Thank you so much.